All right, guys, back again after a couple weeks now, I think it's been. And I have seen a lot of stuff. So let's get started. This time I'm going to talk about a lot of rewatches that I have a friend that hasn't seen a lot of these horror classics. So I was showing my friend a lot of these movies that I'm going to mention first off. Um, so starting out, the first one I watched was Get Out, which is, again, a movie that I've seen a lot of times. I really dig Get Out. I think it's great. Jordan Peele gets a lot of shit for being like, everybody's like, oh, he's either the best horror filmmaker ever or the worst, and I'm like, there's never an in between with anything in this world. So it sucks whenever people say that because I feel like Jordan Peele, no matter if you love or hate him, I feel like there's things that you could positively say about him personally. I really dig his movies, his first two, Us and Get Out. I'm gonna see Nope, of course, whenever that comes out in July or June. I think it's June or July, whenever that's released. I'm gonna see that as well. I'm pretty interested to see what that'll be like. I don't know if I don't really understand the premise of that one. Besides, it's a giant ass cloud with a kite in it, or a giant ass like thing that sucks people up. I guess is what Nope is about. But we're here to talk about Get Out, which is his first movie from 2017. Or wait, maybe it's his second directed movie. I think he directed Keanu or he like of course he's in Keanu. Key and Peele made Keanu together, but I just can't remember if Jordan Peele had a directing credit on that. But regardless, this is the first horror movie that Jordan Peele has directed, and he's one of those directors that or one of those guys that you look at like, oh, he did a lot of comedies. Is he really going to do good with horror? And I think he did great with this one. Get Out, I think, is fantastic. I love the fact that this is a movie that really nails down how scary it is for a black man to be around a group of white people. And it really is just a very well done movie. It's very well written. It's very interesting the way that everything is laid out on the chessboard for the story, the way that this whole thing is a giant mystery, and they really do a great job of building up to the mystery, but also on rewatch again, like they completely reveal the whole mystery of the movie at the beginning of the movie, which I think is awesome. But if you watch it for the first time, you wouldn't have guessed that because my friend I watched it with didn't guess that. My friend thought didn't understand that the stuff they said at the beginning was stuff that would relate to the end, and I do love when a movie is well written like that, where you really do like it's such a cool thing where it's the mystery in disguise and you already know what it is, but whenever a new person watching it and I'm watching it with them, it's cool to see that they don't get the clue, and that's great. That's a good use of writing where like you just are really invested in this story, but they've already kind of told you what it was, and I thought that's really fascinating. So Get Out, like I said, it's fantastic. I think it's hilarious and really funny. It's definitely a mixture of Stepford Wives, which I have not seen, but I've heard the influence on that. I haven't seen either of the Stepford Wives. I do want to see those movies, but it's people keep saying it's a blend between the Stepford Wives and Yes, Who's Coming to Dinner, which I have seen, the Sidney Poitier movie from the 60s. I've seen that one, and I did like that one. And I could definitely see the resemblance with that because it's a black man going to meet his white girlfriend's family. So, of course, that's very similar to this one in terms of that. But that movie's more of a comedy than, like, I guess, than more of a horror. This is still a horror movie, but it's very comedic as well, and the humor in it is very well done in this one as well. But Get Out, really love it. I think it's just very well executed, very interesting. I've talked about it a bunch of times. I've seen it a bunch of times. I don't know how many times I've seen it. It's probably 4 or 5 times I've seen the movie. I really like it a lot. Um, but Get Out's great. And then me and my friends started watching the Wrong Turn series again. I have seen them before. Um, and we watched the first two Wrong Turn movies. Now, Wrong Turn 1 is is in when said and done, it is a Texas Chainsaw Massacre Hills Have Eyes ripoff, which you would think that that's a bad thing about it, but I still really like the first Wrong Turn. I think that despite feeling very, very similar to those movies, to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, to Hills Have Eyes, um, it is very similar to those. But I think that the movie does a good job of being different enough where I do enjoy watching where the movie goes to and how it unfolds. Um, the characters are nothing to write home about. Of course, you got Elijah Dushku in it, who everybody knows, obviously. Um, and you've got all these other actors who do a fine job. I think they do solid enough. I think that this movie, because of Stan Winston's effects, it really is effective. The first wrong turn, and it's just really entertaining. It doesn't, like, it's definitely not as good, I think, as the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I think is the best horror movie ever, one of the best. I think it is the scariest movie ever made, the first Texas Chainsaw Massacre. And this movie, of course, has influenced that. This movie's not as good as that one, but I still think that the first wrong turn is entertaining and fun. Like, I do have enjoyment watching it. Um, so I do really like it. But surprisingly enough, watching Wrong Turn 2, Dead Ahead, I actually liked that one more than the first one, and I was surprised because initially when I first saw the Wrong Turn movies, I liked the first one the best. And watching the second one, I thought the second one was insane. I really dug Wrong Turn 2 more than the first one, and the first one I liked a good amount. The second Wrong Turn is very interesting because it's about a one of those TV dramas, like Survivor or something, where like these people are out in the woods and they have to survive, and they've got this crazy drill sergeant, who's great. That actor is awesome in this movie, but they have this drill sergeant who is kind of taking them through the ropes, and then of course those cannibals are right around the corner, so they're offing everybody, and it is so fun. Um, the effects are really good, but they're not as good as the first one. I do like the effects though in the second one. I just don't think that they. It's weird to say because the first movie had more effects that were more like seeing dead bodies like ripped up and stuff, and they were really effective in the first one. In this one, it's more of a lot of stuff from a far distance, if that makes sense in terms of gore. So it's not like a full close up of some stuff, which is fine because the movie's still entertaining. I also noticed on this rewatch that there are two actors from Final Destination 3 that appear in this and just appeared in Final Destination 3, presumably right before this, because this came out in 2007 and the third Final Destination came out in 2006. And the two characters from this movie, from Final Destination 3, the one in Final Destination 3 who's the jock who gets his head smashed by the weights, and the other one is the girl who gets killed in the tanning bed. In Final Destination 3. It's funny to see both of them in this. Like, it's funny to see that they just repeated and did another horror franchise right afterward, or another horror sequel right afterward. This is also directed by Joe Lynch, which is pretty cool. I think he does a good job in it, or a good job directing it. I think the movie is really good and entertaining. It does have that low budget look in terms of direct to videoism, if that makes sense. Like, it looks direct to video, but I think that with this kind of movie and what it is, where it is about people on TV doing stuff on TV, it kind of excuses it, which I think makes it kind of an excuse. But I do like the movie regardless of being lower budget. In terms of from the first one to the second one, because I think the first one was the only one released in theaters. Well, maybe the remake I think did too. But the sequels 2 through 6 did not have a theatrical release, I guess. I mean, you can tell in this one it's not theatrical, but it's still great, still really entertaining, despite being lesser of the effects and the budget. I think that this one is more entertaining than the first one, and I did really enjoy Wrong Turn 2, Dead Ahead. It was really awesome. And then I rewatched Sleepaway Camp with a friend, and it's, of course, a movie I've seen a dozen times, one of my absolute favorite slashers. Watching it with a friend, they did not know the twist. They didn't know what was going to happen. And it was a great reaction from my friend whenever you see the fact of what happens in this movie. And, of course, most people know what it is, but I'm just gonna keep it spoiler free here. It's really just one of my absolute favorite slashers, one of the best entertaining slashers ever. I love my summer camp slashers like The Burning, Friday the 13th, blah, blah, blah. But this one just really just, no matter what, I can watch this anytime, along with Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3, which I really dig as well. Can't stand the fourth one, though, but I do love the first two, and I like the third one, so it's a great trilogy. Um, I really dig this franchise, and I think it's really fun, especially this first one, which is just so interesting. The fact that it has all of these underlying themes, um, with homosexuality, um, with people that are different, if that makes sense. I'm not really. I guess that's not that good. I'm kind of spoiling it, but like it does a good job with something that was really taboo in the time period in 1983. I mean, nowadays it's easy to see all this stuff now because people are way more cultured and way more, not everybody, but more people are accepting of this kind of stuff. So it's weird to see, and it's great to see in 1983 that they did this kind of thing and had this subject matter that you wouldn't have expected in a movie like this. So I really love that as well for that because it's just such an influential movie as well. Um, Gore's great. Characters are great. The acting is so insane. I don't even want to say it's bad because it's just so entertaining. Like it's so entertainingly fun. The whole movie. I love Sleepaway Camp. Of course, it's one of my favorites. Um, really fantastic. Like I said. So those are the only ones I watch with my friend because that's why I rewatch those because I typically don't rewatch a lot of movies, but I have recently because I've just have a friend who hasn't seen any of these classics, so I'm like, we're gonna watch them. But there is one more rewatch that I'm going to talk about, and this is a twofer. These two movies are connected because I watched the first two episodes of the new season of The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, which of course I really love. I didn't really know much about Joe Bob Briggs at all until I started watching his show on Shudder, The Last Drive-In. I didn't grow up watching Monster Vision or the other stuff that he did, all the other TV kind of things. But I really, really love all the stuff that I've seen on The Last Drive-In. I think it's great, and I'm new to the game, but I really love the stuff that I've seen of his so far. But the first movie that he put on this season was Night of the Living Dead from 1968, which of course is public domain. So of course they're going to put it there, which is great because also it's a horror movie that of course is going to be a good one reviewed by Joe Bob. So Night of the Living Dead, like I said, rewatched it. I really dig the first Night of the Living Dead. It's in terms of Romero's movies, like I really love the first three movies. I think they're a great trilogy, and then after that, they're kind of good, and then they're kind of bad. In terms of like Land of the Dead and Diary of the Dead and Survival of the Dead, I don't really like those ones as much. But I really love Night of the Living Dead, Dawn of the Dead, Day of the Dead. Night of the Living Dead is great, but I liked Day of the Dead more, and I think I like Dawn of the Dead slightly more. But this movie, I think, is so fantastic and so influential. Speaking of another influential horror movie, again, this is one of those movies where you've got, it was in 1968, you've got a black lead who is awesome in the movie. He does a great job. But they didn't have that much at this time period, of course. So it's great to see that. The movie is so funny because it's a zombie movie. They don't ever say zombies. They call them ghouls, which I think is a great word. I love that word, ghouls. And the movie's in black and white, but I think it does a great job with effectiveness. Like even watching it now, in the world we're in with when we're so desensitized by like actual gore and actual like effects and stuff, this one really didn't have that. It just had atmosphere. And the atmosphere in this is fantastic. I love the atmosphere in this one. So, yeah, I love Night of the Living Dead. There's not much else I can say about it. It's a great movie. I've talked about it before. Now this movie I'm gonna mispronounce probably because I had to write it down because this is the second movie Joe Bob did on this week's episode. Anthropophagus, also known as the Grim Reaper, and also known as another title. It is a 1980s horror movie where these random people go to a Greek island, and then they start getting killed off by this guy, and it's so boring. It's so boring. I could not I didn't hate this movie, but man, I was just so bored. It has some good effects though, but it is not for the faint of heart. There is a scene where the guy rips open a lady's stomach and eats the fetus. That's kind of what movie it is. But it's of course from 1980s and it's all practical effects, so it looks nasty and gnarly. But it in terms of effects, I gotta give them props for that because the movie does have some great effects, but it's so badly dubbed. I think it has Daria Nicolodi in it, who does a lot of dubs for like the Dario Argento stuff, like in Deep Red, either dubs or she was the actual actress. I can't remember, but that sounded like Daria Nicolodi in this thing, and I'm assuming because it's around that time period, it was her. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say about Anthropophagus. Anthropophagus. Yeah, that's how you say it, I guess. Good effects, but really boring and really uninteresting. Then I watched for the first time The People Under the Stairs, which is a Wes Craven movie. I only have like 5 more Wes Craven movies to go, I think, in terms of all the movies he made before his death. I have seen almost all of them. I haven't seen like Vampire in Brooklyn, Deadly Blessing, Swamp Thing, that one romantic movie he did, Music of the Heart, I think is what it's called. And then I think there's one more that I haven't seen of his. But besides that, I've seen every other movie he's done. And The People Under the Stairs is one that surprised me because this one is batshit insane. It is about a little black kid who goes along with this other black guy who's trying to steal from this house. But the house is ran by this crazy lunatic brother-sister couple. And I think you heard me right, brother-sister couple. They're having sex with each other. And they have all these people hidden under the stairs that are like, not mutated, but they're like just stuck under there and become weird creatures. Like, it is so batshit insane. And the performances in this are insanely wacky. And Wes Craven always did this, which I love, where he does a great job with camp, with the villains of movies. Like Last House on the Left did this, where they had the killers in that movie and The Last House on the Left were really just over the top goofy, and this is definitely a really good precursor, or not precursor, it's a really good one like it. And the performances in this are great. I don't really know the names of most of the actors. Ving Rhames, though, is in it, and he's great. The actress who played in Nightmare on Elm Street 5 is in it as well, and she's great. Yvonne something, I think is what her name. But she does great. I think that the movie is interesting because it really talks about race, and it also talks about kind of being screwed over if you're poor and you're stuck in this position where like you can't get past anything past being poor, but like you can go and try to stop the bigwigs, and the bigwigs in this movie are this brother sister couple who are the rich people in town. And I just thought this was really fascinating. It was just a fun movie, and I did enjoy People Under the Stairs. I'm glad I finally got to see it, because this is one I've always wanted to see. I just, for some reason, have neglected to see it. But I really dig it. Like I said, I've got 4 or 5 more Wes Craven movies to go. I'll eventually watch more of them, but those are the only ones I need to watch. Yeah, People Under the Stairs was great. And then I'm going to talk about 2 movies that aren't really horror movies. These ones I watched because of the actors involved. I watched a movie called Far From Heaven, which is a Julianne Moore and Dennis Quaid movie. And it is set in the 1950s. I think it's 50s, 40s, 50s. Um, it is about a housewife, Julianne Moore, who Julianne Moore plays, and she has everything is perfect. She's got a happy life, and the movie looks sickly sweet with how the movie's shot. At first, it looks like it's all happy and lovely and all that, and then it takes a turn, because then you realize that Julianne Moore's husband is secretly gay, and he has had gay relationships, and it was considered a mental illness in that time to be gay, so she can't tell anybody. He's got to hide it, and he divorces her, and then she forms a bond and a relationship with a black man who, again, in that time period, cannot really blend in with white people. And I really thought that this movie did a good job of just having minorities like that, where like it was black people and gay people, where like you really see in this time period it was considered deadly to have relations with any of those people. And I think that, like I said with Sleepaway Camp, it's like we kind of forget just how lucky a lot of people are now whenever you couldn't do stuff like that in the 50s. Like I said, if you were with a white person with a black person, like that was considered the worst thing ever, or if you were gay, it was considered a mental illness. So I really liked the fact that this movie did a good job of making it seem at first like a happy movie, and then it really slowly peeled back the layers and how raw it was, just how these characters really are flawed. And the movie does not get happier, and I do like that. I do appreciate that about the movie. I thought it was really interesting. I did like this one. I definitely recommend Far From Heaven. That was from like the 2000s, but it was good. And then the other one I watched is Bridges of Madison County, which is a Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep movie. And I'm typically not into these romantic movies, but of course Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep, I'm going to watch this. This is about just them both falling in love and falling apart, and it was really well done. Even though, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of romantic movies, I was invested, and I thought these characters were good, and I thought the performances were, of course, great by Clint Eastwood and Meryl Streep. I thought they both really sold the romance they had together. So I dug it, but there's really not much I could really say besides that for Bridges of Madison County. And then the other non-horror movie I watched, and the only theatrical movie I watched in this list, is Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I love the fuck out of. This movie was insane. It stars Michelle Yeoh and Jamie Lee Curtis, and it is about a woman who is running a laundromat. Like, her family owns a laundromat. Her husband's going to divorce her, and then she gets involved with a multi-dimensional threat. Like, literally, she like just randomly, like, somebody randomly appears and gives her these things to go and skip dimensions. So she starts skipping dimensions, and it gets wackier from there. In this movie, you have to see it to believe it. It is insane. It is hilarious. It is so fun. It's A24. Of course, it's gonna be great. There hasn't been an A24 movie I've hated. I've loved or liked all the ones I've seen of theirs. This movie is so hard to describe. There are scenes where my mouth just dropped in terms of how funny they are, how insane they are. I love that all the actors have to do so many different roles, because again, these are multi-dimensions. So like, multiverses. So like, Michelle Yeoh in the regular universe is the owner of a laundromat, but in another universe she's a action kung fu star actress, or like other things like that. Or like, in one, she and Jamie Lee Curtis are a couple, and they got hot dog fingers, and it's so nuts. But I loved it, and I thought the movie was so endearing. And it also did, I'm not going to spoil it, but it also did a good job of making a really good family movie, if that makes sense. But I guess it doesn't, because I didn't really tell you what that means. But it at its core is related to family, and I really liked what they did with it. The movie, again, just does a really good job of that. I can't even spoil what insanity is in this movie, because if you were spoiled on it, you wouldn't be so surprised when it happens, because there are moments in this movie where I just mouth dropped. I was like, what the just happened? This is insane. Um, it was so wonderful. It's a great movie. It's awesome. It's definitely my favorite movie so far of the year. I loved Everything Everywhere All at Once. Just really, really great. Awesome movie, and it's the only theatrical one I've seen this week. But those are all the movies I watched, and I'm quickly going to talk about the 2 TV shows I watched. So I finished Moon Knight right before I recorded this, because the last episode came out today as of this recording. Um, Now, Moon Knight is the newest Marvel show on Disney Plus about a man named Steven who has an alternate personality named Mark, and it's played by Oscar Isaac, and he becomes a superhero, fighting off a crazy nut played by Ethan Hawke, who uses the power of a god to kill people off, and in a way of having him gain powers through this. And it is really interesting. I didn't love this one, Moon Knight. I thought it was solid. It was good. I honestly thought it was fine, but I didn't really love it. I thought it was totally serviceable. But again, this is the first thing that we've seen of this thing, and I know nothing about the comics from Moon Knight. But Oscar Isaac is, of course, great. Ethan Hawke is really, really great in this. And of course, Ethan Hawke is awesome in everything, but he is so fantastic in this one as the villain. And Oscar Isaac does great because he has this split personality, of course, so he's really got to emote this split personality, and he does a great job. The action sequences are fine. It's totally fine, but it's not anything that I remember that well. And I've noticed that Marvel has been like that recently, where besides Spider-Man No Way Home, which I loved because of obvious reasons, I didn't love Eternals, and I didn't love Shang-Chi. But again, those are new properties that they're doing for the franchise, but I just didn't love them. And this one is kind of the same way, where it's like it's totally serviceable, but it's not something that I'm going to remember that much. And maybe if we might get more of these characters in this extended Marvel universe, I might like this more on rewatch or something, but I really didn't love it. I thought it was totally serviceable. It was fine. Moon Knight. But of course, it wasn't bad. I do enjoy all the Marvel stuff. It's definitely whatever. It's totally fine. But yeah, I love what Disney Plus is doing, even if a show is just okay. I still don't mind watching it. I don't hate any of these. I still love Marvel. I just love Disney Plus and what they're doing with all this stuff, because they're having Obi-Wan, the new Star Wars show, come out this month as well, which trailer came out today because it's May 4th. So I'm excited for that as well, because of course I'm a giant Star Wars fan. But that's of course the next Disney Plus show that's big that's coming out, because I usually always watch every Star Wars and every Marvel show, and I think they kind of alternate, where like this one, and then they're going to do Obi-Wan, and then the next one I think they're going to do is Miss Marvel, I think is the next one. But Moon Knight was solid. Like I said, it wasn't anything that I'll completely remember that much, but I thought it had some good things about it. And then the last show I'm going to talk about out of the two is the Scream TV series. Now, I watched the Scream movies this month a couple times because of Scream 5, Scream 2022, which I loved. I've seen it 5 times already, speaking of 5. And I wanted more Scream stuff, because I rewatched the first 4 movies with Wes Craven's audio commentaries on all those. Then I watched the new one like 5 times. So like I'm obsessed with the Scream movie, so I'm like, I need to watch something else. I need to watch the TV series, and it was on Netflix, and I'm like, hell yeah, okay, I'm gonna watch this, because I've never seen it before. And the Scream TV series is not related to the movies at all. It's not related. So the first 2 seasons are about these girls named Emma and Audrey, who are involved in a serial killer going around, and it's a mystery like the Scream movies, and you don't know who the killer is until the end of the seasons. And it's really well done. The first 2 seasons of Scream, I think, are really well done, because these characters, you know, watching the movies, I love those characters, and I didn't think anybody else would like really replicate them or really be as interesting as the characters in the Scream movies. But man, these characters in this show, Emma and Audrey, really are fleshed out and really interesting and fascinating. Emma is, of course, the girl who's like a Sidney Prescott. She's the girl who is the base of everything going on, the base of why the killings are happening. And then you got Audrey, who has these mysterious pieces of past that like get revealed throughout the first two seasons, and it's really great. The show is really gory as well. In a lot of instances, more gory than the movies, and I was surprised. Um, but I really like these characters, and I really liked what they did with the first season, what they did with the second season. The first season I liked a lot. I thought it did a good job of building up to who the killer was, and when the killer was revealed, I liked it. In the second season, they did a thing where they revealed the killer, but then they had another episode, and it's like it kind of ruined it for me in a way. Even though I still like season two, I felt like the last episode was the weakest. Um, but overall, I like the first two seasons of Scream. Um, but then we have Scream Resurrection, which is Scream season three, which has none of the cast from the first two Scream seasons, because they're all the same cast from the first two seasons. Season three is about a kid named Dion who has a mysterious secret, and there's a killer that is trying to reveal his secret. And it's only 6 episodes, and it's pretty bad. Scream season 3 or Scream Resurrection. Um, this season was pretty bad. It was just it really reeked of we gotta keep the Scream rights, and that sucks because Scream almost always has a good product. The first 2 seasons of the show I think were great, and I really have no idea why they ditched the rest of the show, or the rest of those characters. Like, why would they make 2 seasons and then bye? We're gonna make this really shitty third season, which has nothing to do with those other characters. Um, the only positive I could say is that you get the mask back in season 3. You get the mask. You get Roger L. Jackson's voice, which genuinely surprised me that they brought him back, because in the first 2 seasons it has got another voice actor and it's not the same mask, which I think actually adds to the benefit of the first 2 seasons, where it's not connected to the films, and the third season is not either, but you've got the exact mask and the same voice, so you're gonna be like, wow, this is interesting that it's not the movies, but it's got the voice actor in the mask. um this one also had Tony Todd in it, funny enough, really weirdly. And Tony Todd, I almost said Tony Hawk. Tony Todd, he also has a hook in the show in season 3, and he's called Hookman, which obviously Candyman. What? Why would he be called Hookman? That's stupid. Um, this season 3 had some of the worst characters. You have a character who is this loudmouth girl who just won't shut up about anything, and she's got a gay best friend, and the gay best friend is fine. He's not annoying, but she's annoying, and like they're like a group, and like he keeps telling her to stop being annoying, and she's like, "No, I'm gonna just start," and she just starts being obnoxious and annoying. And I already hated it whenever she started on screen and she was talking about how her life was being threatened by Donald Trump. And I'm already like, no, politics out of this, keep it out of here. But then she, no matter what, will talk to anybody and be like, just really rude and disrespectful to everybody. So I'm like, I don't like this character. Is her name? I think her name's Kyla. No, not Kyla Pratt. What is her name? This actress. I forgot what her name is, but she is so annoying in this show, like season 3. Could not stand her. The Dion character, the main character, was okay. he was nothing to write home about. He had nothing really to do though. You also have Tyga in this as his cousin, and it's weird. It's like I don't know anything about Tyga. I guess he does music. I think I don't know. I just know he's a guy that's in this show. But that name Tyga, it sounds like it would be a music name. Um, and you've also got this white girl who's a goth, and she's gothic, and she says emo things, and it's just so stereotypical. Where Scream, for the most part, the movies and the shows, besides this season, really try to be not just the stereotypes. They'll point out the stereotypes, so they're not trying to be the stereotypes, and that just really annoyed me with all these character stereotypes. Because, like you said, you got the annoying friend, you got the gay friend, you got the goth friend, you got the boring main lead. Um, it's a lot of stereotypes, and it never feels like anything authentic. And there are so many bad moments in terms of writing where like these characters could literally shoot this guy right in the head. Just they could shoot him, and then they're like just standing there trying to shoot the gun, and they're like, "No, shoot him!" And then like nobody shoots him, and it's like, what? Like that just it's so bad with that. Like this, I understand that horror shows and horror movies have to have characters make dumb decisions, but this one just drove me crazy with how it bugs me with horror movies and shows where like will a character will not decide to do something or be very slow about it. Like for example, in this show, there's a moment where these characters have the ghost face guy at gunpoint, or girl, whoever it is. They have the ghost face killer at gunpoint, and they're like, shoot him, and the person with the gun is like, just not shooting him, and then the killer, of course, gets away, and it's like, I understand that you gotta make stupid decisions because they're not, horror movies have to have that for the most part, but like, that was just too slow and too annoying. It just really pissed me off. But it was, the good thing about this was it was 6 episodes. It was short. It was 6 40-minute episodes. Nothing really, like, it was bad, but it wasn't like the worst thing ever. But it was really, this one of the saving graces was that it was short. One of the saving graces was that you had the mask, that you had Roger L. Jackson, who is intimidating still in this as well. But it's so badly written, it's so badly done. It's got some good gore in it, I guess, to be fair. But season 3 of Scream was bad. Loved the first 2 seasons. This one was bad. It was pointless and stupid that they brought in a new set of characters that were all lame cliches and got rid of the ones that were really good in the first 2 seasons. Really lame. But yeah, those are all the things I watched. Like I said, I watched a lot of movies. The 2 shows, like I said, I liked the first 2 seasons of Scream. Moon Knight I thought was fine. And then all those rewatches I thought were fun for the movies. I'm so glad I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once. Really, really recommend that. If anybody's going to watch a movie, I'd say go see that. It was really entertaining and really awesome. But yeah, I'm excited for this week because Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness comes out. I also want to go try and see The Northman if I can. And I might go see a couple movies at a horror film fest this week. So stay tuned for that. But that's it for all the stuff I watched for the last week or two. Signing off now, and I'll talk to you guys later.